Okay, we are getting into the juicy stuff now. Let's go over some halal investment strategies. Okay, so you now understand what halal investing is. You understand the basics. You understand how this can make you a lot of money through compounding. You understand what's halal and what's haram, and you know the best halal assets to buy. Now, what is the strategy? Okay, let's go over a few. Let's go over the beginner strategy first. You're very new to investing. You finished the course. You're like, this is my first time investing. Let's say you have $100 you can invest. And obviously remember, caveat, if you don't have much money, it's fine. This still applies. Let's say it's $100 and less for a beginner. Okay. This is the portfolio that you should have. 50% of your money should get invested into an Islamic ETF, like we've been over, the S&P 500 Sharia Index Fund or the one that Wahad offers. Those are the two best, okay? This is going to keep you diversified. It's very safe. You want the majority of your portfolio in that. Now, you want 30% of your portfolio in Sukuk, Islamic bonds. We've been over that quite a few times. Hopefully you understand what those are by now. And then 10% in gold and 10% in silver, okay? Why is this a good beginner portfolio if you're just getting started? Well, it's diversified. You have multiple assets, but not too much where it's a little confusing to manage, right? Anybody after you finish this course, you can manage this. And then with the ETFs, that's professionally managed, right? They're diversifying for you. So you're actually buying a bunch of different assets, but you don't have to focus on that. So this is like the most bang for your buck. And even advanced and intermediate people can do this. This is just like, I want to make money with halal investing, but I want to take as little time as possible. It's very low maintenance and it's a good balance of like, it's growth oriented, but it's very stable. Like you're not really exposed to much risk with this beginner portfolio. Okay. What you can expect if you invest in this is probably about a 7% return. Based on previous track records, you can assume I'm going to make between 7 and 10%. 7% to be just conservative is what you can expect. Obviously, that's not guaranteed, right? Because interest is something that's guaranteed. It fluctuates with how assets perform. Okay. Now, the next investment strategy that you can do is for intermediates. Now, disclaimer, if you're a beginner, many people will skip off this video right now. Watch to the end. It's valuable information. You should learn it. An intermediate would be someone who has a little bit more knowledge on halal investing and they have more capital to invest. So let's say this person can invest $500 every single month. This is the portfolio allocation you want to follow. 30% of your money should be in individual halal stocks, right? This is 5 to 7 companies. You've picked them and you have reasons why they are going to perform better than if you just kept your money in a mutual fund. Right? So you have to have a little bit more knowledge of the market to be doing this. You should have 30% of your money in the Islamic ETF. It's just safe, stable, good place to have a good chunk of your portfolio, right? 30%, that's a good chunk. Then you should have 10% in real estate investment trusts, 10% in Sukuk, 10% in gold, and 10% in silver. Now you'll notice with the intermediate, it's broken down a little bit more. This is because with the 30% in individual halal stocks, you are exposed to more risk, but with more possible reward, right? So you have a higher upside, but you also have a higher downside. So that is why you now are more diversified. So if you do end up losing money a couple years on the 30% in halal stocks, you still are so diversified with the rest of your portfolio, you're not really going to see it. You're not going to see your entire portfolio lose money. And I want to give a quick lesson here. We talked about diversification. Inshallah, I'm going to get my mentor to film an entire course module for you guys on diversification. But this is a really important reminder of why you want to be diversified, because you're not going to lose money if you're totally spread out between a bunch of halal assets, right? But if you're only in stocks and stocks go down, you're going to lose money. But if 30% of your money is in stocks and the other 70% is split between a bunch of different assets, if that 30% of your portfolio goes down, 70% of your portfolio is still up. So you're still protected, okay? Now, with a portfolio like this, you obviously need to screen more stocks. You need to do research on stocks. So it requires more manual work. It does require more rebalancing. Okay, so rebalancing your portfolios, what we went over, what you need to do quarterly and annually is like checking, okay, what percentage have increased, sell a little bit, buy a little bit more here. The more assets you own, obviously the more time it's going to take you to rebalance your portfolio. Now, the expected outcome, like I said, possible higher returns, but obviously more hands-on involvement, more time spent, and obviously you're exposed to a little bit more risk, but it's not that much risk. Now, The advanced strategy, and anybody who really wants to get advanced, I can connect you with my mentor. You know, I don't sell like any coaching or any of that, just give you guys this free value. And he's the only person I'll 100% vouch for. So if you do want advanced coaching, this is for people like, it won't be applicable for most people, but if you make like 6 figures and you're very serious about investing, send me a message. I can possibly connect him to you. And if you're not that person, still watch this because it's very good to know. Let's say you can invest like $2,000 a month. So you're a 6-figure earner, you know, you make good money, you make $8,500 a month, and you can invest $2,000 a month. This is the portfolio you would want to follow. 40% of your portfolio in direct stock investments, right? 10 to 15 companies, like the intermediate, but this is even a larger chunk because you have more knowledge. You might have a mentor, right? Someone who's telling you what you should be buying or teaching you how to buy it. So you have way higher upside and you can afford to have your portfolio more leveraged on a certain companies, okay? 20% in real estate investments. You'll notice how this doesn't stay real estate investment trusts, because when you have this much capital, that's when you can get involved in the crowdfunding. That's when you can get involved in more of the where you need the connections with real estate or buying real estate 100% in cash. You should have 15% of your money in international halal funds, okay? So if you're advanced, I've been having too much sparkling water today. If you're an advanced investor, you can invest internationally into funds, and you're kind of betting on the idea with, obviously it's not gambling, you're betting on the idea with real actual backing behind why you're doing that these are a growing market, so it's going to have higher returns, right? So say there's a lot of new stock markets opening in developing nations where their returns are more volatile, but when you have more capital, you can afford to have some of your portfolio in that. So that's a great portion to have your portfolio in when you make more money. 10% in alternative investments. This is like private equity and buying percentages of businesses, right? So say I was starting a lemonade stand and you were like a friend of mine, hey, give me 100 grand, I'll give you 10% of my company, right? Shouldn't give someone 100 grand for 10% of a lemonade stand, but you get the idea. Once again, you need the connections for this type of stuff. And that's where like having a mentor and having a good network comes in. And then you want 10% in Islamic ETFs, that's safe bet, that's still there. And then 5% in gold, which is that uber just stable. That's a very good diversified portfolio. Now, with this strategy, it's very active. You need a lot of knowledge on investing. You want to have like the correct tax systems in place. You want estate planning. You want everything truly planned out. But I wanted to make sure I covered that briefly. I know that's not applicable for most people, but I hope that's helpful. That is the halal investment strategies. So now, without further ado, you, my friend, can start investing after you watch the next module.